Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the 321 Endurance Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Wiley, and this is a show where I talk to all sorts of interesting endurance and hybrid athletes from all over the globe. Today's show is brought to you by BocoGear.com. Boco Gear has the best hats and running accessories that money can buy. I don't look good in a hat, but I look good in a Boco Gear hat, and so will you. So go to BocoGear.com. And my next guest, I'm very excited to bring on this young man. He's done triathlons. He is a High Rocks age group champion. He is a functional fitness enthusiast, an absolute beast. If you follow him on Instagram and you watch this guy work out, he will make you feel bad about yourself because he is putting in the work. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ian Hiltz. And how are you today?
Great, Pat. With that intro, I'm trying to clear some redness from my face, I think.
That's all right. Now you got to live up to all the hype.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So maybe in just a minute or less here, you can give the viewers and the listeners a quick little Reader's Digest on who is Ian Hiltz.
Yeah, so I guess in a nutshell, I consider myself somebody who is passionate about fitness and wellness. Found that probably 4 years ago in its current form. Before that was a competitive NCAA athlete, and so my sort of two-footed jump into the fitness world occurred in parallel with entering the professional world and leaving college. My professional career has put some significant demands on me, as well as diving into the fitness side of things, and think about often how to best balance those things, and all in the interest of sort of self-betterment, self-improvement. So happy to get into all of that, but
I love it.
That's what I'm focused on.
Awesome. So yeah, let's back up here for a second because you said a couple of things there that I want to touch on. So first and foremost, where did you go to college?
Bentley University. So I'm here in Boston right now.
Yep.
Went to school outside Boston. Originally from Rhode Island, Southern Rhode Island. So mostly in New England throughout my life.
Awesome. And you were an NCAA athlete. What sport were you playing?
I played Division II lacrosse at Bentley.
Awesome. What position did you play?
So I was a defensive midfielder for the most part, bounced between defense and defensive midfield for most of my time at Bentley. Some of the context there is that I walked on the team and became what I would call as a utility player. With a little bit of effort, I was just trying to fill whatever role was going to make me the most useful to the team.
Awesome. So I'm gonna pretend like I know what those positions are, and let's assume I know anything about lacrosse. Right? That's it's a very physical sport. Am I right?
Yeah. It's like, if you don't know lacrosse that well, the contact level is kind of like hockey, but not on skates.
Okay.
With a little bit more sort of stick-based contact, and maybe a little bit less of the body contact, just because you don't have the acceleration of skates on ice.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, I would imagine you're running quite a bit. I mean, is that true for your position? Are you running up and down the field all game long?
Yeah, in high school, I think I actually ran more playing lacrosse because I was on the field like the vast majority of the game. Whereas in college, some of probably the better players on the team were on more than I was. But even if you were the sort of elite midfielder on a team, you were exchanging reps between midfield lines. And so, more sprinting and sort of interval running, but less kind of like not quite the way that like a soccer player has to just kind of be able to steady state run for 5 miles while they're moving around the field throughout a game. It's
Sure. So more like short bursts then.
Yeah.
Very cool. And did you play all 4 years throughout college?
Yeah, I did.
Cool. And so, you mentioned after college was over, obviously you're done playing lacrosse. You get into the professional world. And I would imagine, so what do you do professionally, first of all?
Yep. So I work in finance. I was in investment banking in Manhattan for 2 years coming out of school. And then took a job in private equity here in Boston starting in September of 2020.
Awesome. So I would imagine the demand on your schedule working in finance and being on Wall Street, I guess, is, you have zero time for anything else. You're probably putting in 12, 14, 15-hour days. Correct me if I'm wrong. Were you able to stay fit while you were working in the city?
So yeah, this is sort of the seminal or formative experience I had with fitness and wellness, where I was, I'd gotten fit. I'd probably lost senior year. I started to get interested in working out kind of for myself, for purely for the purpose of like self improvement, being the optimal version of Ian Hiltz, right, as opposed to being the optimal member of the Bentley lacrosse team, for example.
Sure.
And so during that time, started had some good like dietary changes alongside it. Lost some weight, became a much better sort of endurance athlete. Like just started running and biking more and working out kind of for its own purpose in some sense. And then, my passion about that kind of got challenged as I entered this job where I was working, on average in my first year, I was working 85 to 90 hours a week.
Wow.
There were times where that would scale up to 100-hour weeks, maybe for a couple weeks in a row, but not for more than 3 or 4 at a time, back to back. So obviously that makes it pretty hard to find time to work out and take care of yourself. A lot of people use that as a sort of an excuse, and for good reason, right? There were weeks where I tracked all of this stuff. So there were weeks where I slept an average of 4 hours, like including the weekend, because I was sure to still get up, and I was pretty stubborn about working out before work.
So you still made the time, even though you were working 100 hours a week, you still made the time to get to the gym and do what you needed to do.
Yeah, my logic was there was going to be maybe 3 days in a medium bad week that I had to work past 1:30 or 2 a.m. And maybe for one day I could push through that and still make it to the gym. But on the second and third days of that consecutively, I would obviously have to take a rest day.
Sure.
And so I didn't schedule rest days. I just worked out whenever I could, knowing that something would come up once a week where I just wouldn't be able to work out. And those were my rest days. But knowing what I know now, that it's not real rest and it wasn't like an effective training strategy, but I was really just committed. And some people, tried to train in the evenings. Like they would eat dinner they paid for dinner for us at the office. So you'd get your like firm paid for dinner. Then you'd go and leave at like 8 p.m. and try to work out between 8 and 10, then come back and work. That was just never for me, mainly because I would get so caught up. I'm in the same way I'm committed to fitness, I'm committed to my work. And if anything was on my plate, I couldn't be present at the gym, and I'd be focused on working, or I would leave and cut the workout short.
Right.
This wasn't like, you lose control over your day once other people are awake. So I tried to do everything in the morning before people were up and before anyone could really bother me or interfere. And then I was like level for the rest of the day, right? You go and like kind of rage in the gym, and then nothing can bother you throughout the day. It's like the title of that David Goggins book, that Can't Hurt Me. Like I kind of just walked into work feeling invincible after that, because you can't take away from me what I did that morning.
Yeah. It's funny, one, that you brought up David Goggins, and two, you have this something, right? So like most people, like you said, would give an excuse saying, I'm too busy to work out. I can't do this. I can't do that. But, Goggins says in his book, it doesn't matter how many hours he put in. If he would come home at 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, he would get it in. And you're getting it in, and you're working 100 hours a week. And, let's unpack that for a second, because that's, you say it so casually, but what is the mindset there, and what is the personality trait that allows you to be such a high performer, that you're going to work 100 hours a week, but you're also going to get the workout in, and you're going to be super fit at the same time? What is it that lets you do that?
Well, it kind of depends who you ask, and you can look at this through a number of different lenses. But at the time, I would say it's just kind of grit and like an uncompromising commitment to your beliefs and your priorities. So it could be stubbornness. If you ask me now, I would say, the quality that drives that, some people could just say the quality is anxiety. You're just afraid, and constantly, running away from doing poorly at work, or running away from missing a workout, as counterintuitive as that sounds. Now, I don't think that that's really a fair characterization of it all, but it's some mix of those things. And I'm somebody who sort of thrives on momentum and absolutes, and so I can go on hot streaks, and if I'm committed and somebody with discipline. I think discipline is probably the one word to sum up the capability to do what you just described, whatever intentions are behind it or not. Like it's easier to do it if you have a natural like urge to be improving yourself or doing well at work or whatever those sort of underlying qualities I just described are. But if you have discipline, it like doesn't really matter if you have those things or not, because you can ensure that you're going to go do things that aren't in your nature.
Right. The discipline allows you to do it when the motivation is lacking, right?
Yeah, motivation or whatever else. And I do think I possess the tool of discipline. So regardless of like what other motivations there are or aren't, I feel very lucky to have natural capability there, but also something I kind of built over time through, you play a college sport, you have a certain personality, you think about certain things all the time, and
sure.
You kind of hone that ability to just do things and like just set the alarm and just get up and like just do X and think less and do more when the situation calls for it. Now I try to be very, very like reflective outside of those times, but like when I need to not be reflective, I'm pretty good at just like turning that switch off. And that's kind of what I did for basically 2 years. It was just kind of in execution mode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it took a toll. Like it's not sustainable, right? Like
no, not long term. You can't. I mean, obviously, you can't survive. We were just talking off camera, and you were telling me, you go to bed as early as humanly possible, 8 o'clock, and maybe even before if you're able to. So you're getting great night sleeps now, but 4 hours of sleep, you're not going to be able to recover, how your body needs to, and your mind isn't going to be able to operate at the level it does for your profession. So, tell us, what changed there? Was it enough was enough? You just needed to take control of your life and you look for a job elsewhere, or, what was the situation?
Yeah, I mean, started part of the plan. So for context, like in this industry, the very typical path that people take, like a lot of people want to work in private equity, to be frank. And the main way to do that is by going and working in investment banking for 2 years. It's sort of seen as like a recruiting or training pipeline, so to speak. The idea is that you go and you work in an investment bank and you get, what is it? 40 times 2.5 is 100 hours in a week. So you get somewhere between 4 and 5 years of experience in 2 years of working, right? Just in terms of pure hours and reps. And you go and kind of just accelerate your career, and you set this basis and you learn a bunch of things, and then you go and move over to the private equity side. Now, I entertained the idea of staying in investment banking because I wanted to go into it sort of clear-minded and not have any presumptions about what I was going to go and do, but did ultimately end up taking the private equity path for a number of reasons. You get to be a little more thoughtful, and you do get a little more balance. So it's sort of part of the plan in some way, or it wasn't necessarily like a pivot where I said, enough is enough, I can't do this anymore. But it was informed by, I kept doing what I was doing for 2 years, and I kept being really good at my job, and I kept training. But I said, I'm probably going to get really hurt or hit a ceiling with my performance physically if I try to sustain this for like 5 to 10 years, and also like add a family into the mix or any like of that kind of stuff. Like there's zero room for anything else. Like it was working, but there was not margin for error. Like I quit drinking naturally during this time because I just did not have time. And like, one thing to disrupt, like, I was so focused on when I had time going to sleep and getting the rest, and when I had time to working out, like there's no room for disruption. Like I lived in New York, and I saw the Statue of Liberty once when my friends came to visit. Like I didn't do anything in New York apart from work and work out. So
yeah,
like, and I'm very cool with that, but like, I just, it wasn't going to be really sustainable for like years or decades.
Right.
Part of it's kind of lucky that like the job I wanted to do happened to come with better balance as well. So that's why people go and work 100-hour weeks, because there's this kind of desire.
So you were laying your foundation, you were putting in the time, and now you're able to have a bit of a better quality of life, it seems. I want to dive into your journey in functional fitness and everything else. But before we do, I'm going to back up the story a little bit. So I don't know too much about this. For those who don't know, Ann and I know each other personally, not super well, but we have been acquainted over the past couple of years. And I know that you ran a triathlon. Can you tell us a little bit more? What was the race? What was the distance? And a little bit about the training involved there.
Yeah, so I had kind of a streak of competitions in summer of 2019 that all kind of just coincided. And I'm backing up the story even more to get into the context here.
Sure,
but,
no, give us the context.
I guess to go way back, I had trained with triathletes for some amount of time when I was younger, because my mom and some of her friends and people who I got exposed to through all of that. I lived in a beach community, and there was a large group of them who would, do cycles and then go swim in the open ocean, and sort of a great community of people in Westerly. I'll shout out some people, maybe like Jen Massingale, who put those groups together. And a group of really just incredibly high quality people. I can't stress that enough, but helped them out, like lifeguarding for them when they were swimming and stuff. And that kind of naturally transitioned into like sometimes going and running on occasion with people, or sometimes like joining for open water swim, but like never really like did a triathlon, never had the gear, never was like really committed to it. This is like before I got into fitness, right? Like this kind of like more focused on lacrosse. And then, as senior year, I had that sort of transformation. I started riding my bike more. I started running more, and had always found those activities like a great way to connect with, most importantly, my mom, but then all those other great people. And then I got into fitness in New York City, and that community aspect became really important to me in functional fitness too, actually. So like anyone who's done like CrossFit will tell you that they like the first thing they say they like about CrossFit is the community. I wasn't doing CrossFit at the time, but I was working out this place called Tone House, working out this place called Training Lab. Both those places had incredible communities of people as well. And they introduced me to another community of people called who compete in an event called the D10. The D10 was formerly known as the Wall Street Decathlon. It's basically a 10 event competition where you perform in each of these 10 mini sports, and your fundraising is linked to your performance. So like people like basically bet on you, like Wall Streeters love to do that kind of stuff, right?
That's funny.
Like bet on like there's a 500-meter row is one of the events, and like people would like donate like $500, and if I row like under 140 for the 500 or something, then their donation goes up to like $750.
Oh wow!
Like go ham, because you're like thinking about all the money you're going to raise for Memorial Sloan by like 20 times. So anyway, but we all trained together for that, and that was a great community of people. And I got into that because I was like, all right, I'm enjoying this fitness journey for myself, but like I need a goal. Like that's how I am, and I miss like having something to compete in and lead up to, and connected with this group of other, former D1 athlete type folks who all work on Wall Street, and they all knew exactly how I was feeling. They were like, well, you should do the D10. So they got me heading down that road. And so in the meantime, I was training at Tone House, getting ready for the D10. Turf Wars came up, which was the Tone House competition came right after that in the middle of the summer. And then sort of late summer was coming around. I was like, all right, well, I did these competitions. Now it's time to like do something kind of fun and like spend time with my family. And like, I just finished my first year. I was coming up on my first year at work, right? Like it's August. I started in August of the previous year. And so I'd taken no vacation. So I was like, I've been here a year. That's like kind of the rule. Like you can take a vacation day after you've been around for a year.
Okay.
Sort of. It's not always
the rite of passage.
Yeah, it's not always real vacation because it's kind of work. But anyway, it was like a time for me to like take a moment at least. And so I took my first vacation, and I was like, I want to do like fun things and spend more time with my family a little bit, although it was still hard in New York and I was working a lot. But and do this thing that makes me feel very full and makes me think about all those people who I care about and who inspire me. I kind of skipped over the fact that it's incredibly inspirational that my mom is Such a strong triathlete and an incredible cyclist.
Yeah, and I'm gonna stop you here for a second because I told you this off camera. You are so incredibly blessed and lucky to have that connection with your mom, because there are I'm sure many triathletes out there, probably the majority, do not have a mom who also does triathlons. So that is a very rare thing, my friend. So treasure that.
Yeah, well, I think not beyond that, most people don't have a hobby that they can do with their mom, I think, like at all.
In general, yeah.
Yeah,
If you think
so
about it, right?
the fact that there's something that both of us are so passionate about that we can go and do together is very important. So, um, and it just inspired, like I thought it was so cool. Like I didn't always think it was cool, but I came to feel that it was really cool when I saw my mom and her friends doing these races. I wanted to be part of that.
Yeah.
So I went and bought, I got my like first, bonus payment at Houlihan. So I went and bought 2 used bikes in Stonington.
Nice.
And like got ready to go do my September Westchester triathlon. So that was going to be an Olympic distance.
Yep.
Beachside route, like running along boardwalks. I had no idea. I was doing this with somebody who I met through the D10, actually. So
Okay.
that was maybe how I found out about the race. His name's Christian Schultz, and he's an amazing community member, one of the key sort of figures in all of that. But it was his idea to do the Westchester Tri, and I was looking for a race to do. I bought these bikes, and that's what got me to do it, I'm pretty sure. And turned out to be an exceptional race. I can't recommend it enough. Glass swim, which actually works against me because I kind of like the choppier open water because I'm used to it in a way that
used to
others are not. Yeah. But I wasn't really doing it to like win or be competitive. Like
you're out there, like it seems like for the camaraderie, the community of it all, and that seems to be the trend for you here, is almost a sense of belonging wherever you are in the fitness community.
Yeah, I'm really competitive though as a person.
Okay, well let's talk about this here for a second, because this is leading into how you and I met. So I want to talk about High Rocks. So for the viewers and listeners, High Rocks is getting more well known now, but I believe it started. Must have been 2019, and then it came to the States in 2020 or around that time, 2019, 2020. It is a functional fitness race. So you have to do a functional workout, like a 1,000-meter row, 1,000-meter skier, sled push. What else do they have? Farmer's carry, lunges, burpee, broad jumps. And then you have to run 1K as fast as you can in between all of those. So there's 8 workouts followed by a 1K run in between. And I've done a couple of these races, and it's a heart attack waiting to happen. You are just zone 5 the entire time. So Ian here, we both competed in New York. We're obviously in different age groups. You won your age group in New York. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It's basically the perfect event for me. So
yeah,
like I'm pretty good. Like, I'd love to like just be as like D10 pure sprint events. Basically, the longest event is an 800-meter run.
Okay.
Not a coincidence that the 800 was where I performed the best, because I'm just not like a gifted explosive. Like I'm kind of explosive, but I'm not like I'm not a elite football player, for example. Like I'm kind of a mid-ranger, like not an ultra endurance athlete, but not an incredibly explosive, like one major effort
Sure.
athlete, like naturally. Like I like to train those things. Obviously I try to train across all domains, but like my physiology is just not necessarily that. So what I do have natural skills in is that kind of mid-range event. Like I'm a fast runner, but I'm not like the perfect elite like marathoner. But I'm pretty well built to be fast in like anywhere between like probably like the 800 up to like 4 or 5 miles, ideally, like maybe a little bit more.
Which is perfect for High Rocks, because I think that the total you run in High Rocks is around 5 miles in total.
Yeah. So and then I have some strength and some endurance, and I'm very gritty. Like I have a pretty good mental edge.
Yep.
Like pushing through pain. And so like I'm lanky, I'm good on the rower, but like I'm not gonna like die on the sled the way that like a smaller person might.
Right. Right. And let's talk about the row here for a second, because I see you on Instagram all the time posting your row workouts, and you're doing sets of 500 at a consistent like 138 or 139, 140. I mean, that's, if people don't know anything about rowing times, that is strong. And what are you doing with those row workouts? Like, how many sets are you doing? How consistent can you be in that 130 time?
So I used to, my old row training consisted of going to Tone House and like going absolutely ham. Like, you have no idea how hard those guys train. I cannot describe like the energy. I will never experience that training again. Those folks, like, shout out to like Alonzo, like the community there is crazy. So like, built that skill by just like being gritty and going hard. Now it's probably a little more scientific. So like, part of my like evolution as an athlete is to be a little bit smarter about things. And I actually work with a coach now. So we've done like a variety of rowing work. We do a lot of breath work.
Okay.
I've built a lot of leg and glute strength. All that helps. And then we've done everything from sort of steady state, like interval work, to one of the craziest things that we did that I'd never tried before was these reverse pace intervals, where you start really fast and slow down over the course. Like, I've done build intervals, obviously.
Sure.
They're common in both running and rowing and anything else. But these reverse pace intervals were really interesting. Where I had to start out, I think, at like 136 or something, and then like slow down to 142 over the course of the interval.
I got slowed down to 142.
Yeah, like 142 felt harder than the 136 because it's like you already gassed yourself out.
Oh my gosh!
But it now actually really parallels my sort of running training in the way the intervals are broken up and the way we sort of progress week over week.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like, High Rocks was, like you said, right up your alley. It plays to your strengths. Do you remember do you know what your finishing time was at High Rocks?
Yeah. 119 and change.
I mean, super impressive. What was the feeling like? Were you going to High Rocks thinking, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to win my age group and qualify for High Rocks Worlds? Was that the game plan?
Really, I was thinking about it. So we did a lot of training with the training lab, which won the award for like having the most like high scoring people from the city.
Sure.
And my friend Tom Paradiso, who also trains at Training Lab, won overall. And rowing, he's a former lightweight Olympian rower. And so we were doing all these. We would have like a weekly throwdown, like a literally like 2 or 3 hour workout. And that was always like, I'd always throw down on Saturdays. Like, that was my big thing anyway, because I was like, not like, don't have to work most likely. I can like just devote myself to training and sell out completely. But yeah, we were doing all these training sessions. And there was a handful of like maybe half a dozen people between Tone House and Training Lab who are like clearly like competitive performers. And
that's the vibe of the gym that you're training at, preparing for this race. So it's like ingrained in you at this point.
Yeah. I mean, they work hard. Everybody there works hard. The people who win High Rocks and the people who don't. I'd be in these workouts and like I was doing pretty well. Like the strength movements, I had a bit of an edge probably over the people who are better than me at running. But then like I have an edge on the running over the people who are stronger than me, which is like a perfect illustration of my High Rocks strategy, right? I'm like kind of a better runner than the strong people and kind of stronger than the good runners.
Yep.
But like, I'd be in there and I'd get ahead and then we'd get on the rower and like Tom would get on the rower next to me and he would like do like a 3,000 meter row at like 130 or something like that. Like, I don't know, like some crazy absurd pace. And I'd be looking over like, fuck, I gotta get with him. But I kind of got the sense, right, that like I was smashing these workouts that like, there would be like an hour and a half cap and I would do in like 45 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is going pretty well. Like, I was attuned to the Boston fitness or New York fitness space at that point. So I was like, I can't really think of like many people who are likely to do a lot better in my age category, right? Because like I haven't hit the age group where people have their midlife fitness crisis yet. I'd say I had my midlife fitness crisis early.
Okay.
The best athletes I work out with are like, in their late 30s. And in the endurance world, like triathlon, you're actually
those are the elite right there. That's that age group where everyone's at their peak, it seems.
Yeah, exactly. So like I actually had an edge by being young. Like people say, oh, you're young, like you're strong, you have an advantage. But like my peer group was weak, to be totally honest.
Okay, sure.
Because people were like,
Well, so your age group was, I was looking at the photo, was it 19 to 24?
I think so. I was 24 at the time.
So you were 24 at the time. So you're up against, people who are, you know, and I'm not saying what you did was not impressive, but like you were saying, you were more fit than the people in your age category because there aren't very many high performing individuals at the level that you were um, at 19 years old, right? Like I wasn't doing stuff like that at 19. You know what I mean? But impressive
People who are,
nonetheless.
they don't have, maybe I'm generalizing, but like they don't have like grit. Like they
Sure.
go and blow up by going too fast in the first event, or like they really know what they're getting into. Like I don't want to speak down on people my age, but like
No.
it's gonna be harder. It's gonna be harder this year as a 25-year-old for sure.
Well, I mean, I just judging by your training and seeing what you have going on now, I think you're going to be quite all right, to be honest with you. And I want to talk a little bit more about High Rocks and how we met. So, you won that age category. It wasn't just winning. You also qualified for the World Championships of High Rocks in Berlin, that was supposed to take place in April of 2020. Ironically enough, I qualified for Worlds in the doubles category at the Chicago race. So I was training at the YMCA, just getting a nice lift in because I was really I really wanted to build up some muscle for Worlds and have a little extra strength. And I was wearing my High Rocks shirt, and this woman comes up to me and she says, "Oh, High Rocks. How did you know about that? My son just did a High Rocks race in New York." And I said, "Oh yeah, really?" It turns out this woman is your mother, and we made this connection that way, and so we ended up, I guess, following each other on social media, and from there and connecting that way. But obviously, neither of us went to Berlin that year. Which was pretty disappointing. I mean, I was in peak physical condition, ready to go, as I'm sure you were as well. What was the feeling there when everything shut down and you weren't able to compete against the best in the world?
I mean, I didn't really like. I was looking forward to going to Berlin because my family's from Germany, honestly, and like my parents were going to come with me, which was a pretty big deal. That would have been really nice. But
Yeah,
I like the day of the competition is like, I don't know if it makes any sense, but like it's an afterthought. Like I live for like the work leading up to it, so like I kind of just like took like it was a little disappointing. Like it would have been a fun experience, but
yeah,
like, just because I put off going abroad for most of my life or all of my life because I was focused on school and lacrosse and then work. So like
right.
then to Europe or outside the U.S. apart from Canada, but like the actual competition, I was like, well, I know like kind of how I did. Like maybe I could have done a little better, but I kept training and I like
Yeah.
had a lot on my mind with like work and COVID. So
Yeah, that's interesting to me. So you just, there are a lot of people, I guess, why do they do what they do? You enjoy the grind. You just love putting your body to the test, it seems like.
Yeah, but for me, it's 100% about just becoming like an optimal version of myself, and I can do that with or without like a competition. Like it's fun to go throw down.
Sure.
It's great tests. It's great to have something to focus on and like build up around. But at the end of the day, they're all just sort of like lenses and structures around like a core focus that I have, and you can take away all of the externalities and the scores or the awards or the locations, and I would still have like a core set of principles that I'm striving towards. And
Sure.
like, what's like the Bruce Lee, like no style, just like take what works for you and leave the rest. And if I took away all of the things I've kind of accumulated, I think there would still be a sort of core pursuit that I would find a way to go after. So it kind of just kept going. Like,
I love that mindset. I got to be honest. That's and I want to end it talking about this here. You know, you say you want to be on this path of self-improvement and to be the best version of yourself. Is there something underlying that drives the need to make Ian Hiltz version 10.0 better than version 9.0? And what is that underlying driving force behind that?
I mean, it's a very philosophical question, but for me, it's part of like living a full life. And whether that's going to provide me fulfillment in the very end or not, that's a that's a question that's been around throughout human history, I guess. But the lucky thing, in my view, is that whether it's going to pay off or not, or whether it's my purpose to become the best version of myself or not, like there's downstream effects of it that make it worthwhile every day anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So like getting to go and experience like a triathlon with my friend Christian, with my mom there to support me and my dad there to support me, or like being really good at my job, I think comes from like what I do on the fitness and health side, and being able to hopefully live like a slightly longer life than I would if I wasn't working out, or like
Sure.
outside the workout realm, there's obviously its own set of like downstream benefits, but like I just feel like things pay off like so quickly that like it doesn't, like I hope that I have it right, but even if I don't, like it's just working. So like it's kind
I
of
mean, it's no harm, no foul. It's not like you're putting, toxin, based chemicals in your body. You're working yourself and you're improving and you're becoming the best version.
Having an underlying mission that's not linked to a competition, right? Because the competition can get canceled, and I'm still like, I'm still on my road, and I'm still excited about the road that I'm on.
It doesn't affect your mindset and your mentality like it would for somebody who's so fixated on the finish line and the place and the time.
Yeah, that plays a lot into like coachability. If you talk to like people like who highlight like what they want in an athlete, like you actually don't want an athlete who like lives and dies by what happens on the field every day. If you look at like sports psychology, it's like the people who are actually the most coachable and the best athletes. You don't want to be apathetic, obviously, but like the people who have a full life outside of what's happening in a given moment or on the field, or like how the practice goes, are the ones who can quickly move on from mistakes, for example, because they have like a good support system, or they have like other things they care about, and they'll go home to whatever that is, and then they'll come back ready to go the next day.
And they're not dwelling on what happened in the past. That's the big thing.
Yeah. Now you don't want to be apathetic and like not care, obviously, but there's like a balance to be struck there. And that's something I've come to understand a lot more over time. For example, like I probably was not thinking that way in New York. Like I was very, I didn't care about the competitions, but I was, I think you could say that like my annual review was probably serving the role. Like if my annual review went badly, then it would have created like an existential crisis or something, or like and things outside of my control. Like if the company had to lay off a bunch of people and I was one of them, and maybe it had nothing to do with me, like that would have created like a significant mental challenge for me. So maybe that's like the thing to compare it to. But I think I've in many ways moved on from that across all venues. But to bring it back to fitness, that's kind of how I think about things. And it's just really, I think it's easy to operate that way because the gifts that just arrive as a result of that mentality are undeniable in terms of just like being happy every day and like seeing progress and like being able to like be a little better at work and show up for my coworkers and show up for the people who I care about and show up for my family. Like I feel like I can do all of that better when I'm taking care of when I need to pursue that goal of like being the better Ian. So maybe it could just be all elaborate ways of like justifying this investment in myself. But
no, it's definitely a thing. I've noticed the same parallels in my own life, especially when I ramped up for triathlon training, and it forces you to be the master of your schedule and actually all areas of your life. You're accountable to this plan that you're on and this goal that you have in mind. And, even if it's just a goal like yours, where it seems like it's a lifelong process and that's the goal, is just to be better every day. It doesn't matter because
you don't have to be better every day. That's another lesson that I've learned.
Say that again.
Better over time.
Better over time.
Every day. That's another thing that I've had to learn.
You're much wiser than your age suggests.
Thanks.
I got to be honest with you. It's very refreshing. And it was so great getting to know you more. We've known each other for a couple of years, but this is the most we've been able to talk. And it was really great to, dive into your mindset on not just fitness, but business and life and just how everything is connected and tied together. So thank you so much for your time. I want everybody to check you out on social media. It's at Hiltz with an underscore in between the T and the Z.
The story on that is people always call me Hiltzy. I think I used to call my mom Hiltzy, actually.
Okay.
And then naturally, without me ever telling anyone, every sport I've ever been on, people just start calling me Hiltz or Hiltzy. So it's Hiltzy. But before you shoot me off, everybody here needs to know that the way that I really got to know Pat was during the pandemic, he lent me like 70% of his garage gym to keep my sanity and keep training in the basement. So like everything that he just praised is like I was only able to keep going because of Pat's generosity. So it's probably clear from the questions he asked in this podcast, but a very virtuous and generous person who really helped me in a time that everybody was struggling. So.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that. And I mean, it was my pleasure. I'm glad it went to good use. And, I just wish you the best on this continued lifelong journey of self-improvement and fitness and killing it in every area of your life. Thank you so much for being a guest. Let's do this again. Let's, if you're in Westerly visiting family, let me know. We'll get together. Would love to see you again, my friend.
Yeah, I will. And thanks for having me on, Pat.
Awesome. We'll talk to you soon. Well, there you have it, folks. That was Ian Hiltz. Man, just a super high-performing individual in every area of his life. Follow him on Instagram at HiltZ. And you won't be disappointed. He might make you feel bad about those road times, but hopefully it'll give you a little bit of motivation. So comment, like, subscribe, please share this, and we'll check you next time on an episode of 321 Endurance.